If you wanna be solicitors, why don't you come and visit us at SQE TV?
This is SQE TV, the YouTube channel for wannabe solicitors with me, Jonny. In this video, we'll do a quiz all about SQE1, SQE1 by numbers.
SQE TV.
So let's get cracking. SQE1 by numbers. What you'll see during the course of this quiz is a whole bunch of options in front of you, some numbers that look like this, and your job is to select the number that aligns with the question that I'm asking you. And then we'll have a brief discussion, giving you a little bit of information about that particular point on SQE1. So for your first question, how many multiple choice questions, MCQs, are there in SQE1? I'll give you 5 seconds to come up with the answer. Not too tricky if you've read a little bit about the SQE so far. And the answer is 360. I think you knew that already. Now, 360 questions across 2 papers, spread roughly a week apart, which means you get 180 questions per paper. And that means you do 90 in the morning, 90 in the afternoon, and do the same in 7 days' time. Quite a lot of questions you need to be prepared for there. More about that on other videos. So that's question 1. Question 2. How many options are there for each multiple choice question in SQE1? So I'm going to give you a little choice there. Look at the numbers. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I gave it away at the beginning of the countdown. The answer is 5. Now, there are 5 options. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means you've got an 80% chance of getting it wrong by guessing, but a 20% chance by guessing and getting it right. One thing to emphasize is there's no negative marking on SQE1. So by having a shot at an answer which you think might be correct but not sure isn't going to cost you any marks. Now, one thing to note about the MCQs is that they are all assessed on a single best answer basis. And what that means is that there are 4 really plausible answers that are wrong because the 5th one is objectively better than the rest. That makes the standard of these questions all the more harder to find the right answer. All the more reason to make sure you're well prepared with a good test prep course before you embark on the exams themselves. Question 3. On average, how many seconds do you have to answer each multiple choice question? You probably don't know this, but see if you can have a guess. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 seconds, and the answer is 102 seconds. Now, that's not very much at all. It's 1 minute, 42 seconds. So let's show you the mathematics on this. So there are 360 questions that are set across 10 hours and 12 minutes across FLK1 and FLK2. Before you ask the question, what the FLK? FLK stands for Functioning Legal Knowledge. More about that in later videos. So 360 questions across 10 hours and 12 minutes. Let's reduce those to the number of seconds that you have across those 2 papers. And then you can see from the maths there, we reduce that down to 102 seconds across the 2 papers, 1 minute 42. Now, it's important to emphasize you don't have a clock for each question at 1 minute 42, but of course, if you spend too long on one question, it means you have less time for the rest of the questions in the paper. Equally, if you manage to answer some questions a bit quicker than that, then you do save a little bit of time for questions later on in the paper or for going over some of the questions you weren't so sure about. So 1 minute 42, not a long time. Question 4. What is the pass mark for SQE1? Simple question. Let's give you 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. And the answer is, sorry, folks, it was a trick question. Now, the reason why there is no official pass mark, which is what the answer is because it will vary between sits. And what the examiners will do is they'll see how candidates have performed. They'll look at and review the level of difficulty of the questions and come out at a pass mark. But it has tended to be around about 56, 57% or thereabouts within a few percentage points. And I don't see this changing over the course of time. So ultimately, you're going to need to get well over 50% of the MCQs right in order to pass. Question 5. What was the national SQE1 pass rate in January 2023? I'll give you 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. And the answer was 51%. I know a lot of us are very concerned about this, and I'm sure you guys are as well. But 51% of the students who took SQE1 in January 2023 passed, which means 49% failed. Now, this number includes resitters. If you take resitters out of it and just look at first sitters, the pass rate was 54%. So still only just over 50% of students sitting the assessment actually passed it. So all the more reason to make sure that you do take the exam when you're fully prepared and make sure you invest in a course that prepares you fully and don't just try and wing it.
SQE TV.
Question 6. What was the pass rate in Jan 23 for students with a first class degree for SQE1? So those who've got a first, what was the pass rate in January 2023? I'll give you 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. And the answer is 73%. Now you're probably thinking, well, of course it's going to be much higher than the national average. But just have a look at that figure again. Flip it the other way around. How many of those students with a first class degree failed SQE1? That's 27%. And the vast majority of those will be students with a first class degree in law. And that really should ring home to you how challenging the SQE1 assessments are, and therefore should reiterate the point to you that you really do need to make sure that you do a comprehensive SQE1 prep course with a reputable provider and only sit the exams once you're 100% ready for them. Question 7. How much does it cost to sit SQE1 in the academic year 23 to 24? And the answer is, in 5 seconds, 4, 3, 2, 1, £1,798. That's a very large sum of money. Now, it's really important to emphasise that this is the fee to sit first time for SQE1. And if you, say, pass one of the papers, you will end up having to pay a resit fee of half that sum, which is £899. If you fail both of them, you have to pay the full fee again. So all the more reason to make sure you're fully prepared for the assessments by doing a course from a reputable provider, but also make sure that you only sit the exams when you feel ready to. Question 8. How many sittings are there for SQE1 each year? Let's give you 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. And the answer is there are 2 sittings for SQE1 each year. They are in January and July. The little asterisk there is to denote the fact that the SRA have said that in the future they may extend the number of sits, but presently they have no intention to do so. So what's the implications of this? Well, if you have to defer or maybe resit SQE1, you have to wait for 6 months, and therefore that can actually add to the timeline that you were originally planning for qualification. So do take that into account, particularly bearing in mind the fact that there is only just over 50% pass rate of actually passing SQE1 in the first place. Question 9. How many sitters were there for SQE1 in January 2023? Let's give you 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. And the answer is 3,031. Now, this is really significant for 2 reasons. Firstly, just by the number of sitters. If you compare that to the first sit of SQE1 in November 2021, there are now 3 times as many people who sat it in January 23, which therefore makes the stats, the results from January 2023, much more reliable in terms of future performance, whether it's pass rates, whether it's the rates for providers individually who have provided the education to the candidates. Why else is this significant? Well, also the makeup of the January 2023 cohort is much more typical of future cohorts. Prior to January 2023, there was a large majority of paralegals, apprentices, and internationally qualified lawyers who were looking to take SQE1. But the January 2023 cohort contains the first significant number of recent graduates and recent graduate converters. And that is typical of what future cohorts will look like. So please do feel free to disregard all stats that the SRA give you prior to January 23 and any provider gives you for cohorts prior to January 23, because they are not statistically reliable. What is much more representative of your chances of passing are the rates you can see in January 2023, whether those are rates cited by the SRA or any education provider. And finally, question 10, what do the rest of these numbers represent? And we're going to have a bit of fun with this one because I'm not going to give you the answer now. What I'm going to ask you to do is to post on the chat the answer in the context of the SQE as to what each of these numbers represent. And the person to get them all correct first will win a small prize from us with our compliments at SQE TV. So hopefully you've enjoyed this quiz. You've learned something from the numbers, but also learned something in terms of your own career development, because this is what it's all about. It's about having a bit of fun, educating yourself and taking yourself forward to the next stage. So please do like and subscribe to this video and the channel. And it's just one more opportunity now to hear our fantastic jingle.
If you wanna be solicitors, why don't you come